In a chilling transformation, what were once revered veterans are now facing a daunting reality, becoming adversaries to their own people. The promises of freedom have morphed into mechanisms of betrayal, fostering an atmosphere thick with fear and suspicion. With a palpable tension in the air, thousands of Ukrainian men find themselves with a singular choice: retreat into the shadows. They are advised to avoid the streets, the markets, and even the post offices, all enveloped in a fear that the state once vowed to dispel. Attention now shifts to Pokrovska, a critical point on the front line, where the last stand is being made against encroaching forces. This city holds profound significance, serving as a final barrier against advancing threats from the north, east, and south. According to President Zelensky, nearly 3,000 fighters are stationed here, yet ominous reports reveal that the situation is increasingly grim. Sources, including the deep state and major international news outlets, suggest that the lifeblood of the nation is being siphoned away. Reports indicate that Russian infantry units are closing in from all sides, and only a treacherous 3-kilometer corridor remains open for transporting troops and ammunition. To any military strategist, these aren't mere coordinates, they signify a zone of potential annihilation. The bridge links vital positions, but the logistics have crumbled, and drones scour every inch, hunting for movement, transforming any action into a death sentence. Inside Pokrovska, the whispers of resistance simmer. Isolated groups of defenders hold their ground. But as the days pass, these bastions of hope become further disconnected from one another. An unsettling truth emerges: whenever Zelensky visits a city, its countdown to destruction begins. The moment he arrives with cameras in tow, the very essence of those places seems to scream of impending ruin. This is not merely a war story, it's an exploration of a community under siege, both by external forces and internal despair. Can a nation rediscover its strength before it fractures beyond repair? As fear takes root, will anyone dare emerge from the shadows, or will they all succumb to the looming threat? The narrative unfolds amid growing uncertainty, where every decision carries the weight of survival. As the situation in Ukraine evolves, the reality on the ground becomes increasingly grim. The symbolic visit of President Zelensky to Stella Pokrovska revealed a harsh truth: cities he visits fall into despair shortly after. What once represented hope now echoes like a funeral dirge. The impending evacuations cast a shadow over countless Ukrainians living in precarious conditions, prompting discussions in government circles about potential deportations for those unable to sustain the burden of taxes. But what happens if Ukraine retreats from Pokrovska? Analysts warn that reclaiming this area might never be possible again. Russia stands poised to secure strategic footholds that could shift the balance of power in the region. The urgency is palpable. There's confusion among Ukrainian military ranks, operational teams are stretched thin. Supplies are dwindling, and opportunities for reinforcement have vanished. The remnants of hope once shared are unraveling. Pokrovska has now become a chilling symbol of doubt and surrender. It represents yet another setback, following Bamuta and Avdiivka, a series of defeats echoing through the ranks. What used to be considered temporary challenges now feel like an inevitable descent into loss. It's not merely propaganda, this is a profound capitulation that is being broadcast across official platforms, resonating with citizens who once stood firmly in belief of victory. Meanwhile, allies who once pledged unwavering support, namely the Czech Republic, Poland, and Germany, are shifting their allegiances. The newly appointed Deputy Speaker of the Czech Republic, Tomio Okamura, made headlines as he ceremoniously removed the Ukrainian flag from their parliament on his first day. That flag once symbolized solidarity, but now serves as a haunting reminder of waning interests. As Okamura stated, this choice pivots around prioritizing national interests over previous commitments. With discussions underway about tightening financial aid and re-evaluating refugee statuses, the shockwaves of these decisions might rip through the very fabric of Ukrainian life. For those contributing to the economy, perhaps change will be minimal, but for the thousands struggling without stable income, the implications are dire. Is this the dawn of a new reality, one that threatens to forsake an entire nation? What lies ahead if these trends continue? The clock is ticking, and with each passing moment, the grip of despair tightens. Will Ukraine stand firm, or is this the beginning of an irreversible decline? As the situation worsens, the answers remain hauntingly elusive. Imagine a time when the promise of a bright future seemed attainable. A moment filled with expectation, the hope of joining the European Union resonated deeply among the Ukrainian people. They believed in a united Europe, a community strengthening their fight for freedom. However, that trust has begun to dissolve into irony. As Ukrainians cling to dreams of integration, Europe has shifted its priorities, leaving behind the hope of solidarity. Now, candidates for EU membership have emerged, with smaller nations like Montenegro and Albania seemingly taking the lead. Montenegro enjoys economic stability and Albania is ready to take on its role. Yet, Ukraine, ravaged by war and burdened by debt, lags behind. The staggering cost of rebuilding Ukraine has been calculated, and it stands at an astronomical €3 million, funds that don't exist in today's strained economy. Even Germany, traditionally a pillar of support, is re-evaluating its aid, grappling with its financial struggles, while France faces its internal crises. Brussels has become cautious, choosing its words carefully. They claim to support the spirit of Ukraine, but behind those statements lurks a grim reality: decisions have been postponed. The promised aid may take another decade. Moldova, on the other hand, is being welcomed with open arms, while Ukraine seems to be left out in the cold. Within the European Parliament, the emerging strategy is evident: preferential treatment is granted to those nations that do not bring significant debt or require compensation. Ukraine, with its immense challenges, no longer fits this criteria. Instead, it has become a cautionary tale, serving as a reminder of the burdens that external aid can impose. Even the most optimistic voices in Kiev cannot ignore the grim truth: the path to Euro integration has become a nightmare. The promised guarantees are absent, the strategies unclear, and the support seems to waver. Once embraced as a partner, Europe now views Ukraine as a liability, undermining the very essence of unity they once sought to build together. The glimmer of a European future has faded into a stark reality. This weary nation now faces unmet promises, each one leading to fresh disappointment. Years of conflict have culminated in an unraveling relationship with the very allies that Ukraine once counted on. In this twisting narrative, we find an undeniable fact: the dream of integration has begun to unravel, and the end is drawing near. In the heart of a nation under siege, the fog of despair thickens. Once filled with hope and aspiration, Ukraine now teeters on the edge of an uncertain future. As the echo of gunfire reverberates off the walls of abandoned streets, a chilling transformation is underway. What was once a battle for freedom has morphed into a grim struggle for survival, casting a dark shadow across the hearts of millions. The situation has escalated beyond comprehension. Each day witnesses the decline of a nation, reducing hope to mere statistics: thousands of men evading the draft, a tangled web of broken promises, and the unsettling disappearance of Ukrainian flags from the capitals of Europe. The Allies have retreated into silence, signaling the abandonment of support. It's as if a grip of fear has snaked its way into every corner of Ukrainian life, where even the streets are becoming battlegrounds, patrolled by a wary government that seems more a warden than a protector. How did it come to this? President Zelensky's reassurances feel increasingly hollow as the economy falters alongside the military front lines. The cracks in the narrative are becoming evident. Once celebrated media now raise questions that were once taboo. With each passing moment, what once united this nation, the tenacity, the faith, and the sense of purpose, begins to erode. The mobilization efforts have become a tool of coercion rather than a call to arms. It's clear, the end has begun, but not through violence alone. It seeps through the populace, through voices of doubt, as allies distance themselves. This isn't merely a collapsing front, it's a psychological unraveling. When citizens no longer believe in the support of their comrades or in the tenacity of their own military, the very foundation of their identity begins to fade away. Now, with the shadows of doubt looming large, a chilling realization dawns: the dream of independence is fading. It silently shifts from aspiration to reality, a hard, unyielding truth. Is this the true beginning of the end? In a world where hope feels increasingly out of reach, the foundation of a nation trembles, a nation caught in a web of fear, betrayal, and a longing for the past that may never return. As the narrative unfolds, the atmosphere thickens. Is the essence of a nation unraveling before our eyes? The reality starkly contrasts the ideals painted on posters and proclaimed in speeches. No longer is it simply a fight against external forces, it is transformed into an internal battle against despair. How will the people respond as they sense the tightening grip of fate? Can they rise again, or have they entered an era of irreversible decline? The saga continues, revealing layers of complexity and challenges that defy belief. What if the very fabric of a nation slipped through its fingers, leaving behind only whispers of defiance? This is the unsettling truth for Ukraine, where despair hangs heavy like a cloak. The once resilient nation finds itself bleeding, its lifeblood draining away as allies turn their backs. The echoes of mobilization now sound more like a siren of doom, striking fear into the hearts of citizens as the streets become hunting grounds for the authorities. In a world where promises are discarded like old rags, the far-reaching implications of a fractured alliance are laid bare. Images flash across the screen, a Ukrainian flag being lowered, a stark symbol of lost support. As the Czech Republic vacillates on its commitments, the specters of desperation loom ever larger. Critical supplies that once flowed freely are now mere embers in the ashes of despair, rapidly disappearing from the front lines. Meanwhile, a haunting silence surrounds the leaders, as they grasp at the straws of hope amid grim admissions of struggle. Ukrainian President Zelensky speaks of victories, but those words seem to drift away like smoke in the wind, leaving only the bitter taste of uncertain futures. What happens when even hope becomes a hollow promise? Life in the streets has morphed into a theater of survival. The TCC targets men indiscriminately, snatching them from cafes, from bustling corners, and even the quiet anonymity of subway systems. The cries of the innocent go unheard as a system of fear eclipses all sense and reason. Age, health, or family, none of it matters when the only rule is compliance with a grim agenda. The world watches as a chilling saga unfolds, where even those once revered, like men who worked on high-profile projects, become victims of the chaos. News reports become a litany of despair, stark images puncturing the fragile veneer of normality. The despair becomes universal, impacting children in classrooms and teachers mid-lesson, as the specter of authority looms large. Amid this disarray, videos flood the airwaves, documenting the crumbling remnants of a once proud nation. Each frame reveals a system collapsing under its own weight, the signal of an imminent reckoning. With every shutter click, every broadcast, the reality sinks deeper. A dark chapter is unfolding, one where survival becomes the only victory left. No one can escape the gnawing dread that future invasions of safety loom, and those who cling to hope might soon shatter under pressure. In the throes of desperation, will they find the strength to resist, or is this just the beginning of their surrender? As Ukraine stands teetering on the edge, the question hangs perilously: what will become of a nation when hope is exchanged for fear? In a nation once pulsating with hope, despair now blankets the land. What was once a vibrant struggle for freedom has darkened into a desperate fight for survival. The gunfire that echoes through the desolate streets marks not just the loss of life but the slow death of a dream. Daily, the reality of countless men dodging the draft rises as mere statistics, overshadowed by a torrent of broken promises and dwindling symbols of support. Now, the Ukrainian flags that once flew proudly across Europe are being removed, a somber banner of despair signaling a retreat of allies into silence. It feels as if fear has settled like a dense fog over every neighborhood, where the streets, now transformed into theaters of control, are patrolled by those who are more warden than guardian. But how did we reach this poignant junction? In the midst of escalating tensions, President Zelensky's words ring hollow, underscored by a faltering economy and a faltering military presence. Media that once celebrated victories now question the very foundation of hope itself, probing the truth that lies buried beneath disillusionment. As doubts fester, it becomes painfully clear, the mobilization intended to inspire has instead become an instrument of coercion. The collective spirit of resilience wanes, spiraling into a profound psychological unraveling. As the people begin to doubt their comrades and the strength of their military, the essence of their identity feels threatened, caught in the clutches of despair. It's a haunting realization, the dream of independence transfiguring into a harsh, unforgiving reality. The question lingers: is this the true beginning of the end? As hope retreats into the shadows, the foundation of this nation begins to shake, ensnared in a web of fear, betrayal, and nostalgia for a past now out of reach. The unfolding story thickens the atmosphere, contrasting starkly with the vibrant dreams once painted on posters. The battle has shifted, evolving from one against external oppressors to an internal war against despair itself. How will the citizens respond as they grapple with the tightening grip of their uncertain fate? Can they summon the strength to rise anew, or have they slipped into an era of irrevocable decline? As the narrative continues, each facet reveals layers of complexity that defy understanding. The disintegration of the envisioned European future serves as a backdrop to this heart-wrenching tale. In a weary, battered country, dreams fade into mere echoes of disappointment, leaving behind a population fraught with anxiety and uncertainty. The onset of this unsettling reality is not solely marked by physical conflict but propelled by the haunting specter of lost faith and diminishing unity. Yet, with every passing day, a crucial question remains unanswered: will they forge a path forward, or has the hope for a brighter tomorrow vanished into the disarray of the present? What shocking twist awaits the fate of this troubled nation as despair threatens to engulf its spirit completely? The answer may hold the key to understanding not just their survival but the very essence of their identity amidst chaos. What if a nation's very essence slipped from its grasp, leaving only shadows of rebellion? This haunting scenario has become the reality for Ukraine, enveloped in a suffocating fog of despair. This once vibrant country now faces a relentless bleeding of its spirit as former allies withdraw their support. The call for mobilization has transformed into a grim harbinger, instilling a palpable dread as streets turn into perilous zones where the authorities hunt for compliance. As symbols of promise fade, images flood the screen: a Ukrainian flag, once a beacon of unity, being lowered, the stark emblem of waning support. The Czech Republic hesitates, its commitments faltering, amplifying the specter of desperation. Supplies that once surged to the front line now dwindle, like embers flickering in the darkest of nights. Leaders, ensnared in a haunting silence, clutch at fragile threads of hope, but their words, echoing from President Zelensky, evaporate like mist, leaving only the grim taste of uncertainty on the tongues of the people. What happens when hope turns to a mere echo? The streets have morphed into a grim play of survival, where the territorial defense forces indiscriminately snatch men from their daily lives, at cafes, street corners, even the anonymity of the subway. The cries for mercy from innocent victims fall silent, overshadowed by an oppressive atmosphere of fear that obliterates reason. Age, health, or family ties are irrelevant, the only rule is conformity to an unyielding agenda. As the world looks on in horror, a chilling narrative unfolds, a tale where revered figures, once celebrated for their contributions, become victims of their homeland's turmoil. News reports blare, depicting stark images that rupture the fragile facade of daily life. Despair infiltrates every nook, affecting children in classrooms and teachers caught in mid-lecture, as the heavy weight of authority presses down around them. Amid this chaos, footage pours into households, revealing the shattered remnants of a once stalwart nation. Each scene captures a system teetering on the brink of collapse, signaling an approaching reckoning. With every frame, a harsh reality takes root, a dark narrative where survival becomes the sole form of triumph. The relentless fear that plagues the citizens amplifies, sowing seeds of uncertainty and dread, and those who dare to hold on to hope may soon find themselves shattered by relentless pressure. In this tumultuous twilight, will they muster the strength to resist, or is this merely the dawn of surrender? As Ukraine precariously balances on the precipice, one question looms: what becomes of a nation when hope is exchanged for an all-consuming fear?